Okay, I just had a question for Emily. You mentioned asset management kind of being a key part of the process. How early do you feel that asset management should be considered from a design perspective?
Right from the beginning, from day one. I think particularly, as mentioned in a data center, it's the function of a data center is based around the efficiency of the assets that are there. And also, these are very expensive bits of kit. And for companies like IBM, they have lots of very expensive bits of kit all over the world. So managing those assets is hugely important to them as a business. And certainly as knowing where assets need to be maintained and at what date, and going through that process for a general FM tool, not just in data centers, that has commercial buildings, hospitals. The asset side of controlling asset management is very important for the money saving.
The relationship between those assets is key as well, because there's no point in just replacing one aspect of it or trying to understand what one component is in isolation. Trying to understand what the relationship between those assets are, the causes and effect of particular failure of one asset, or even if you upgrade to a newer asset, what the implication is going to be for the assets it's connected to. That goes for anything that's mechanical, infrastructure based, or technical, as well as staff. I mean, everything to do with these environments is an asset, and as far as these systems are concerned, individuals as well as equipment or infrastructure is an asset. So you have to understand what the dynamics and the relationships are between them.
Just a question there for Brian. Say, on the demand side, are you stipulating in your employer's requirements that the supply chain must be BIM proficient in order to work with you?
Increasingly so. So it's actually becoming wider now. Typically it was only onto very specific areas, but now as we're starting to broaden its uses across our environments and how it's moving across all of our systems, it's now starting to appear more frequently. So it's something that we would typically look for when working with any of our suppliers, that it's something that we are going to use in the life cycle of the environment going forward. So clearly it has to be there at the start to make life easier for us and to build an overall business case, because just because you guys come back and give us a cost for that event at that time for that particular requirement, it doesn't stop there for us. We have to build a long-term objective and understand what it is. So clearly it isn't just whatever price is at the end of the page in a proposal. We want to now see what the entire life cycle is going to be and what the impact of that's going to be.
Sorry, Brian, just from the client side, I mean, having worked for 15 years, as you said, in this, what would be the big gain of a BIM process versus a traditional process on your buildings? I mean,
time. And it really comes down to that. Ultimately, it's about trying to build some kind of efficiencies, and you have that time, scope, cost triangle that everybody knows so well. But the big one that has the biggest impact on the other two is time. So either getting people, products, or issues there when they need to be there, resolved when they need to be resolved, but then trying to just make it up and spend time on what you need to, what you have to. I mean, what we look at as an IT company, I mean, our big business is either software or outsourcing services. So clearly, when we do outsourcing, we're taking something that isn't a core competency of our clients, and we're taking it off them so they can focus on their core competency, whatever their business is. Aer Lingus is an airline, they're not an IT company, so they want to focus on airline things. We're the same, so we want to focus on maintaining our client's business. We do not want to be focusing on managing the data center and fixing problems, fixing a valve, understanding what's going to go on, if a rack's going to fit in the right place, can we get power to the right area at the right time. The more of that we can automate, the more of it can be simplified, just makes our business leaner. And all businesses, particularly in this area, are moving towards lean processes. So that's what it's ultimately going to give you an objective on.
Another question for Emily. I'm interested in the BIM for DC group. What we do find in industries, people don't really want to talk about their experiences, and as you say, BIM is about collaboration, and you actually have to work together. So it's actually important that people share the experience? Are you finding in the BIM 4 groups in the UK that companies are beginning to share case studies? And
I mean, as I mentioned, the lesson learned side of BIM, the processes that people are going through at the moment is really important. So communicating if something went really well on a project, how we can improve upon it, is paramount. And actually, as I did say as well, that data centres are surrounded by NDAs. So actually, finding a case study for a data centre project using BIM is actually quite difficult. But the BIM for communities we do meet on a regular basis in a collaborative way. I personally quite often sit on the BIM for fit out meetings as well. And there is a certain amount of cross-pollination of information out there, mainly because we're all trying to achieve the same thing. And that's why this charter's coming in, to make sure that we're all singing from the same hymn sheet, and also helping each other as much as possible. It's very much, if someone comes up with a great idea, then put it out there, and that's why we're always open to people who are bringing in new software tools, or they've just started a BIM process and they want to tell us about it. Then please get in touch. We're always wanting to hear from people, and that's across the board.
Down here first. I have a question here for Chad. The impression I got, Chad, can you hear me?
Say again?
No.
The meeting is still going, but I don't know where he's gone.
Well, I guess I don't have a question for Chad.
I'll email him.
What I actually was interested in was the state of maturity of the supply chain and their adoption of BIM. It would appear this is a highly specialised area, and one that probably there had been perhaps more focus by suppliers on digitising their products. I don't know.
Certainly, the supply chain is paramount for the success of running a BIM job. It's the information that comes from the asset and the kit that actually gets taken through, which enables all of this information to be of use. There are BIM for manufacturers. There's a lot going on at the moment in the manufacturing world. What I would say to any supplier, subcontractor, this doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg to do. If you're sensible with your time frame, it can be done a relatively inexpensive process, and you can get your return on investment. It's lastminute.com rushes on projects where people see that there's quite a hefty price tag attached with, say, content generation. However, any business can get a return on investment from BIM. I would always recommend to a manufacturer of kit, for example, once you've got your product put into the correct format, I would approach those MEP businesses, architects like ourselves, structural engineers, and sell your product again in that right format. This can be used as a fantastic marketing and PR tool as well. So although there is a price tag, it doesn't have to be astronomical, and you can get return on investment.
Thank you.
And clearly, look, in terms of your specific question on how prolific it is in the market, it's not so at the moment, but probably in Ireland, and largely because there hasn't been very many very large projects over the last few years. Certainly internationally, and in the other data centre projects and large building projects that we're involved in at a worldwide level, it's part and parcel of that. And typically we would see a threshold from an IBM perspective. So IBM would do it in projects that we take over and run. And we would look at projects that are typically kind of 4 to 5 million and up. And it would be mandatory in that. And literally because clearly the more money you're spending, the more focus is going to be on cost and how lean the project is going to be.
Sure.
Chad is back.
Have I to ask the question again? Excuse those who already heard it. Chad, I had a question for you. I wanted to get a comment from you on the maturity of the supply chain preparation for BIM. In other words, have their products in digitized format that can aid design efficiency and also life cycle cost.
Suzanne, can you repeat that? I'm having a hard time hearing the audience.
Sorry. Tell me, I'll speak one sentence and tell me, can you hear me? Okay?
I'd say that microphone is the only one that's picking it up. Suzanne's
maybe.
microphone.
Sorry, Chad.
Okay,
John's
I can hear
going
you.
Yeah,
No problem.
it's only picking up this microphone, so John's going to come up to the podium.
Okay, thank you.
Chad, can you hear me any better now?
Yes, I can hear you perfect now. Thank you.
Good. The question I had is, I wanted to get an insight from you as to the maturity of the supply chain market in their preparation for BIM. In other words, to what degree is their product information and performance information digitized and available at this stage to designers and constructors and facility managers?
So you're talking about how much, what level of design, what level of data is actually we're seeing?
I'm talking more about whether information, things like catalog cuts, design information, and performance curves, dimensions, that type of information, is that available fairly widely for the products that you would, or not the products, the actual equipment you would be building into your data centers?
We're seeing a lot of the data that is actually about the equipment. Most of it at the design stage is not really in there. I mean, there is, but it evolves during the process. I don't know what you guys see over in your area, but it varies obviously from design team to design team. I think a lot of the equipment it evolves during the process. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
I think
do not see a lot.
I think it
We
does.
just don't see a lot of the specific equipment called out early in design.
Sure. Oh, that is just what I wanted to know, the state of maturity. Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, I wish, to be honest, there was more resolution around this type of equipment and systems that were going early on.
Do we have any other more questions from the audience for the panel?
Did Suzanne mention the prize for the best question?
What? She said.
Okay, I think we can probably close on those notes. Took a few notes throughout all the presentations. And sort of the top three learnings that I would have taken from this is that the data center design or data center procurement and BIM are very much aligned processes. And what really drives that is a combination of being, one, a very time-based process where it is important to deliver data centers on very, very short deadlines. And the other side is that it is very much asset-oriented. So the data that we can be putting into our models as design and construction teams certainly helps the facilities process moving on. Sort of the second side of it, and it is related, is that that process is very much about knowledge management. And the knowledge management, described by Brian as part of the assets. So part of what we deliver as design and construction teams to our clients is very much a thing that is utilized and leveraged throughout the operations of our building. And probably, the third thing is ties into Emily's top tips, which are more or less all people and process related. It's tied together through the technology, but it is very much about the knowledge base that's there for different people, and coming together and collaborating and communicating to deliver what the client is actually looking for, and something that they could use for not 5 years now, but 20 years plus.